He may have been a fitness god to millions, but Richard Simmons struggled with a whole lot during his life, from his family to his weight, and even a devastating earthquake. At the age of 3, Richard Simmons was diagnosed with asthma, a medical condition characterized by breathing difficulties and mucus accumulation in the lungs. Living with the condition meant sleeping with a vaporizer, taking medication, and relying on a handheld inhaler, and it was made all the worse for Simmons because of resistance at home. In his memoir, Still Hungry, after all these years, he wrote, "Back then, lots of people thought asthma was only an emotional thing. My father subscribed to that school of thought." Simmons' growing food sensitivities worsened the asthma, while he also dealt with a separate and highly visible medical issue. He later wrote, "The joint between my ankle and foot didn't work quite right. As a result, my left leg was doing up to about 70% of the work of the right leg. So in addition to my wheezing and coughing, I had this very distinctive waddle walk." Simmons began to compulsively and secretly overeat early in childhood, which led to bullying and subsequently depression, which stayed with him throughout his lifetime. As he told NBC's Today, "When you're an overweight kid and you're made fun of and you're put down, some of that stuff never leaves you. It always sort of is like a shadow." In the late 1960s, Richard Simmons moved to Florence, Italy and found acting work, starring in commercials and making in-store appearances at grocery stores. Right after one such performance, Simmons noticed a note tucked beneath the windshield wiper of his borrowed car. "Richard, you're very funny, but fat people die young. Please don't die." The note was unsigned, but Simmons believed it was left by a friend who noticed that the actor had rapidly gained a moderate amount of weight over the previous few months. The letter sent Simmons spiraling. As he wrote in his memoir, "He or she didn't really know me. They hadn't been with me through all the years of grapefruit and hard-boiled eggs, of pills and Weight Watchers meetings." Right after he read the letter, Simmons spotted a fortune-telling scale, got on, and discovered that he weighed 268 pounds, far too much for his liking. The note frightened Simmons and led to what seemed at the time like an epiphany. He later wrote, "So who or what was the enemy? I knew the answer: food. In a single day, food went from being my friend, my comforter, my pain reliever, to being the thing that could kill me." The note would put him on the road to losing 130 pounds and finding a career in the fitness industry. After receiving that fateful note, Richard Simmons set about losing as many pounds as possible as quickly as possible.
When you're overweight or you feel different or you don't fit in, you have low self-worth.
It's true.
But when you have self-worth, you inherit the earth.
Simmons had been heavyset most of his life to that point, and his weight loss attempts had been thus far unsuccessful. In Still Hungry, he wrote, "I had tried all those diets and even diet pills when I was younger, but I was still eating." This time, Simmons subsisted on a meager diet and exercised heavily. He wrote, "I stayed very busy. I drank water, I walked everywhere, and the weight began to come off. Every day, I found new ways to avoid eating." One of the tactics he employed was to drink a huge amount of water. If he had to dine with others, he'd sneak food into a napkin and throw it away. In 1 week, Simmons lost 17 pounds. After 10 weeks, he dropped 112 pounds, while his skin took on a gray pallor and papery texture and his hair fell out in clumps. At the time, Simmons was living and working in Florence, and after passing out in the street, he regained consciousness in a hospital. A nurse explained that he had been diagnosed with severe dehydration as well as partial kidney and lung failure. He was hospitalized for days. Richard Simmons is a household name, but it's not the world-famous fitness celebrity's real name. He was actually born Milton Simmons.
I like Milton.
I thought it was really serious.
Simmons was named after his father's brother, who would become an important and influential figure in the younger Simmons' life. Milton was the sole relative outside of his immediate family with whom Richard was close, and the first Milton Simmons' assistants allowed the second Milton Simmons to pursue higher education. In 1969, when Richard was in his early 20s, Milton Simmons died. He later wrote in his memoir, "I was crushed. I didn't even get to say goodbye to him. I'd never lost anyone whom I'd loved before." Richard, living in Italy at the time and far away from the rest of his family back home in New Orleans, attempted to quell his grief with an extended bout of binge eating. That behavior continued for several weeks and only grew worse after Richard got word that his brother Leonard had been deployed to fight in the Vietnam War. In late 1982, Richard Simmons' father, Leonard Simmons, scheduled a kidney stone removal. The operation took place despite Richard's reservations. After the procedure, Richard's brother summoned him to return to the family's home in New Orleans, as her father had suffered surgical complications that left him hospitalized. Richard recalled, "There were tubes running everywhere and he had lost a great deal of weight. It was the hardest thing I'd ever faced." Leonard was eventually discharged from the hospital and went home to convalesce. Perhaps sensing his imminent death, the elder Simmons, a Roman Catholic, made one final request of his celebrity son, to travel to Rome and meet the Pope. Leonard wanted Richard and the Pope to pray for him. With the help of his publicist, Richard Simmons arranged a meeting and prayed with Pope John Paul II. A few months later, in April 1983, Leonard Simmons died, the night before Richard was scheduled to arrive in New Orleans to lead a 10,000-person aerobics session. The fitness personality was too depressed and grief-stricken to attend his father's funeral, but the family faced another traumatic event that day. A New Orleans newspaper ran an article about the funeral, thereby announcing exactly when the Simmons home would be unoccupied. Burglars broke into the house and stole everything he owned. In January 1994, a destructive seismic event struck Southern California, resulting in the deaths of 72 people, thousands of injuries, and $20 billion in property damage.
Ceiling fell in on me, so everything is just ruined.
Where will you spend the night?
We have no place to go.
Richard Simmons' Los Angeles area home stood about 15 miles from the earthquake's epicenter. He was asleep when the quake began around 4:30 a.m., and his residence suffered extensive damage, particularly his art collection. As Simmons recalled, "Every piece of glass that I had in the house turned into glitter. I spent the rest of the day sweeping up glass and putting the shards in piles that resembled the sculptures and vases they once were." Simmons' vast and highly valuable collection of art glass was completely destroyed in about 30 seconds. Throughout his career as a fitness coach, Richard Simmons personally interacted with his clients and fans, providing empathy, sensitivity, and support as others embarked on the journey he'd started himself years earlier. Simmons paid special attention to ensure that Michael Hebranko got healthier. After reaching a weight of about 1,100 pounds, Hebranko was so depressed that in 1988, he nearly took his own life. Unable to go through with his plan, Hebranko instead composed a long letter to Simmons, whom he'd seen on Hollywood Squares. Within a week, Simmons wrote back and sent Hebranko his Deal a Meal dieting program and a Sweating to the Oldies exercise tape. Simmons coached and counseled Hebranko for a year, then suggested he check himself into a hospital so that doctors could supervise his continued weight loss. After 7 months of hospitalization, Hebranko had shed 500 pounds. Within 2 years, he'd lost nearly 800. He even entered the Guinness World Records for the largest recorded weight loss. In the years after, however, Hebranko would gain back the weight, going from 198 to 800 pounds and then down to 500 again. He also endured 2 strokes, heart issues, kidney failure, pneumonia, and hepatitis C. Despite Simmons' steadfast involvement, Hebranko died in 2013 at the age of 60. For many, Richard Simmons was an exuberant picture of health, bouncing through TV appearances with vigor that belied his ever-advancing age. In 2011, the 63-year-old Simmons turned in a cameo on Dancing with the Stars, and he appeared so gaunt and weathered that it spawned rumors he wasn't well. He attempted to dissuade these rumors in the aftermath, however. Simmons attributed the change in his appearance to having recently gained and then lost an unwanted 22 pounds, as well as some hair loss. Then, late one night in June 2016, TMZ reported that Simmons had been rushed to a Los Angeles hospital. His housekeeper had called authorities after she found Simmons confused and unintelligible. Amid speculation that the incident was tied to dementia or a stroke, Simmons told the New York Daily News that he'd been diagnosed with dehydration. About a year later, in April 2017, Simmons revealed on Facebook that he'd been briefly hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He wrote, "They make you feel good, even though you're in the hospital for feeling bad." Simmons' spokesperson later revealed the reason for his stay. He told ABC News, "After a few days of battling severe indigestion and discomfort while eating, we agreed it was best for him to seek treatment." Richard Simmons retired from public-facing work in 2014, sparking speculation about his disappearance. In March 2016, the New York Daily News published and later deleted an account from Simmons' friend and masseur Mauro Oliveira, who claimed to have visited the fitness celebrity at his home. According to him, Simmons appeared underweight and out of sorts. Oliveira claims Simmons told him, "I just want to be by myself and I want to be in the house and we're never going to see each other again." He offered to give Simmons a massage, but instead he was tossed off the property by Simmons' housekeeper, Teresa Reveles. Oliveira then levied a somewhat outlandish claim against Reveles, saying, "I think it was black magic, witchcraft. Teresa is putting black magic on him." After the story ran, Simmons agreed to an interview with NBC's Today.
"No one is holding me in my house as a hostage. You know, I do what I want to do, as I've always done."
Simmons then explained the true reasons behind his move into private life, explaining,
"Because I've taught like thousands and thousands of classes. And, right now I just want to sort of, just take care of me."
The tabloid TMZ exclusively reported in November 2014 that Richard Simmons hadn't been spotted in 10 months, a rare and lengthy disappearance for a celebrity who once regularly appeared on television and taught classes at his gym, Slimmons Studio. The reason, according to an insider, Simmons' knees. After delaying a necessary right knee replacement surgery for almost 10 years before submitting to the procedure in 2010, doctors told Simmons in early 2014 that he'd need to get a new left knee too, or else he may be permanently unable to exercise again. The idea reportedly so traumatized Simmons that he fell into depression, which was exacerbated by alternative medical treatments to fix the knee. The report from TMZ quickly spread, and concern for Simmons was so great that he released a statement and confirmed elements of the story. He wrote on Facebook, "I have had a tough time dealing with this injury as it's keeping me from doing what I truly love to do, and that is to teach classes around the world." As of 2022, Simmons still hadn't undergone the second knee replacement procedure. A TMZ-produced documentary claimed, "He walks with a cane, and that explains a lot." Richard wanted to retreat before his image was recast as an old man, and his knee problems were a huge factor in his decision. If you or someone you know needs help with an eating disorder, visit the National Eating Disorders Association website or contact NEDA's live helpline at 1-800-931-2237. You can also receive 24/7 crisis support via text. Send NEDA to 741-741.